That's not a bad transition.
I'd take that.
Yeah. And then Keegan Swenson took Velocio.
Yeah. Velocio? Did I say it? What did I say?
I think you said that.
Did I? Okay. I just want to make sure I'm right because, I don't get it very often. I don't want to sound like a bigger dumbass than I am. It's so quiet. We don't have anybody, and we're starting on time.
Go figure.
Yeah.
We're the Wimples.
Exactly. I know the theme is louder, but I've been listening back to the show, and when I listen back, I've been noticing the theme is really weak. So you're going to have to deal with it for a couple seconds. It's really loud in my headphones right now. You guys?
What? I can't, man, my ears are bleeding.
Wait, you've been talking?
Yeah. Outdoor rides, the classics are here. The time is when bike lovers stand up and cheer. Only bad news now is likely the price of eggs. Oh, did I mention I finally shaved my legs?
Good one. I'm going to even drink to that.
Yeah. There we go. I'm not poking through my pants anymore. Welcome to episode 469 of the longest standing podcast in the sport of cycling. This is the one and only Packfiller Cycling Podcast. Think of this as a post-ride beer with several friends and one asshole, and that's been cut down to a third, so you can pick one. I'm potentially that asshole. My name's Pat Bulger. With me are some members of the Packfillers, so we're going to check in on who indeed is here. If you're watching us on YouTube, chances are you already know, although Jackson's probably just had that camera on, so the chances are you're just staring at kind of the top of my head and maybe can see my widow's peak. Our prologue brought to us by Scratch Labs. Wow, that hurt. The source for pure fueling at its finest. Oh my God, they're great people. Tonight's question, gentlemen. Speaking of leg shaving, what is your leg shaving routine? How often and how dedicated are you to the art of shaving your legs? If you're listening to this show and going, wait, what? Babe, what? You'll understand. That is so loud. Is it so loud, or is it just me?
What?
Well, it's about to end, so.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
It's over. Wow, that was loud. Once again, the prologue question, I'm going to have to listen back, and I hope that's just perfect levels. Because if not, my tinnitus has become worse for nothing. Your leg shaving routine. How often, how dedicated are you to the tradition and the consistency? Tradition, I don't know what that meant. So first off, introduction, he is the ringleader of Reynolds, Mr. Whitefingers himself, Paul Main.
Yeah, they're pretty cold right now.
Are they really?
Yeah. Because I ate. And anytime I eat, your blood rushes to your stomach to help digest.
It leaves your fingers
if
to go
it's
to
below 50 degrees, my fingers will turn white.
Wow.
When I eat. Yeah.
There's a sex joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to go there. Yeah. How are you, man?
Doing all right.
Talk to me about your leg shaving routine. How dedicated are you to maintaining?
So I stopped shaving after my very last race of the season.
You do?
So if it's July, it's July. If it's August, it's August.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
My first is, and always has been since I started shaving my legs, wasn't the first year I raced. First year I raced, I just couldn't put a razor in my legs. It was too weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I crashed, and I thought, wow, I'm going to start shaving my legs.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had hair inside the scab, and then,
Wait,
it's not
terrible.
good. Yeah, it's not good.
So,
I probably, maybe once every 2 weeks, my hair doesn't grow fast.
oh, my God.
So, and it's blonde, so you don't notice. It's just only once in a while I'll look down and when I'm on the shitter, and I'm like, whoa, I guess I need to shave. Yeah. So I think it's around 2 weeks.
I got it stuck on the lid.
Yeah, I gotta remember that.
Wow, every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Shit. Now, is that, I'm going to use a visual with my pen here. Is that where the stubble is still sticking out, or has it started to lay down on its side?
It depends. It could be one. I don't like it when it starts laying down on the side, then I have to use an old sponsor of ours, Manscaped.
You do. I still use the shit out of those things. Yeah, I still use them regularly. Yeah. Okay. Next, he's the harbinger of humility, Mr. Watts himself, Jackson Bulger. I know you're probably not going to share what numbers you hit on that sprint.
That was pretty crazy. Yeah. I was surprised by that one.
He's not going to share the numbers. Not on the podcast.
You can search if you want. You can look. That was one of my highest ever. Yeah. So
the final sprint when we
Yeah.
When we hit the sprint sign.
That was one
No
of my
wonder
highest
I was
ever.
like going, man, I got to work on my sprints. It's like I feel like that coyote.
Was my lead out fast?
I
Yeah,
mean,
it was.
I hit
good.
40.
It was a perfect lead out.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I just give me something.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, it
Because I was
great.
like, okay, I'm going to hit the gas. I'm going to see if I can go full bore and then pull off at about 150 meters to go.
Yeah.
And you did.
Uh-huh.
You did exactly
I just
that.
wanted to make sure I was going fast, and you guys were like, okay, how much longer do we sit back here?
No, it was great.
Okay, there's the sign. Let's go.
Yeah.
Good job, Dad.
It was perfect.
No, it was really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Jackson, how are you?
Great.
Second of all, talk to me about your shaving routine. And this, you prompted this question from me this week when we were on the ride about how your process goes, and I find it interesting.
Yeah. So I had to change it this year. I originally started out with like just regular old razor.
Straight edge.
Yep. No, not straight edge. Safety razor.
And a
Yeah.
leather strap.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I even have the little like brush you put in the
Yeah.
shaving cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That noise. So
That's right, Dad.
That's
anyway,
right. Good lead out, Dad.
yeah. But I have really sensitive skin, so I get really bad ingrown hairs, redness, and so this year, because I let my hair grow out all over the winter, I started with the electric razor, and it gets so close that you can't really even visually tell that you didn't use a razor. So I'm doing that now.
Are you using the old Manscaped one?
I am.
Okay, we're giving them free advertisement, but they were good.
Yeah.
They gave us some product for a while there. So,
Yeah. I have a beer hair trimmer that I started using, and then I started just using like the other one. And that one gets way closer.
Really?
So I do that now. I don't get ingrown hairs. It's also not like it doesn't hurt other people's legs.
Yeah, that's
that's a big deal.
yeah,
big
that's
thing.
huge.
So
Yeah.
it's my new solution, and it doesn't hurt when I put pants on either. Because that second or third day when it's like, oh, this kind of hurts now.
I've damaged the denim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've like put.
Damaged them.
I've like ripped a hole in my sheets.
Yeah.
I pilled the sheets. Yeah. No, not anymore. Not anymore.
How often did you say? How often?
Oh, weekly.
Weekly. Okay.
So it'll be like a weekend day.
Okay. Me, I'm the Sultan of self-deprecation, Mr. Better Than Last Year.
Good. And
yeah.
you are.
Yeah. I don't shave enough. I am bad at it. First of all, you bless your poor gentle hearts with this once a week, once every 2 weeks shit. I could flex right now and probably grow just a massive beard.
Yeah. Same jeans, buddy.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's the shit just doesn't stop. And now I know you're thinking, especially the ladies listening, you're thinking, wow, I hope he doesn't have hair on his back. I don't.
Huh.
It's not. I might have a spray
You can't see
here
it
and there.
anyway.
Yeah,
so.
it's blonde. But if I don't shave, probably every 3 days, 4 days, it starts to get to the point where my wife notices if I happen to rub up against her or if I destroy the sheets. I have to, and I went this winter kind of like you did, Paul, and where I just stopped, and I honestly it disgusted me. Did actually, side question, did you guys, when you first started dating your current spouses, was there a phase when they went, ew, shaved legs, and now they're like, ew, hairy legs?
Well, what was interesting for me is that I initially started with hairy legs, went to shaved legs, and now like every once in a while she sees hairy legs, but I don't think it really matters.
She doesn't. The hairy legs don't bother her.
No.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah. Well, when I met my wife, she thought it was strange.
Okay.
Very strange, and it was kind of freaked her out when we rubbed legs and they're smooth.
Yeah.
But then about a year after dating and first year of marriage, we were at a pool party with my family, and my brothers and my dad and I were standing by the pool talking, and my wife tells me that she looked over and thought, ooh, those hairy legs are gross. And So she doesn't mind either way, and it grows out. It doesn't. Even my stubble's soft. I don't have
Mr. Soft Stubble.
Yeah,
That's
God,
great.
mine's not. Mine, I honestly could sell
like a porcupine
product to Brillo or SOS pads, and they'd be like, "Shit, best scrubber ever." So no, it's bad. And now that it's gray, it could be like a Mr. Clean sponge too, because it doesn't stain that. Never mind. It's bad. It's bad. And then you think about the ultimate irony of the fact that you've got all these cyclists who are way into shaving legs. And by the way, what was your initial reason to shave legs? Paul, you mentioned it.
Crash.
It was crash. Jackson, what was yours?
Everybody that I ride with telling me that I should.
Everybody that you ride with, it's kind of a peer pressure thing.
Yeah.
And you hear some people say it's for massage purposes, it's for crash cleaning, it's for all these types of things. Some even break down and admit that it's for aerodynamic purposes.
Well, what was that one time I said? I think it was like 20 watts or something like that. Like that's
at a certain speed.
Yeah.
But then yet you look into the Propelloton and you see how much facial hair is now a part of the whole scheme. I mean, nobody's going to fall on their face per se, but with the aerodynamic purposes, I mean, I would imagine facial hair is not aero.
Supposedly, it doesn't affect that.
Really?
Yeah. Your leg is it's all contact surface without going too deep in the weeds.
Yeah.
It's like what the frontal portion of whatever hits, like your handlebars is the first thing, and then your head, your arms, your legs, and so. Yeah.
I think I did it first because everybody else was doing it, kind of thing. Like Jack Broadhead gave me shit about it. Although the funny thing is about at the time when I first started riding with Jack Broadhead, I don't think he had the hormones to grow hair.
Oh.
He was just this skinny punk kind of a kid.
That's why he was sent back with the other juniors to get ice cream with MA.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, Jack. Quit your whining. So that'll just remain out there. And I'd love to hear your reasons for shaving your leg. No, I don't need to hear that. I don't want that coming across on my social media. With Omloop, Nieuwsblad, and Kern of Brussels Kern last weekend, very likely my favorite classic Strada Bianca coming this weekend. Not to forget Salmon today and La Guiglia tomorrow. I hope I said that correctly. I'm just throwing out massive guesses on pronunciation. We are entering what I consider to be the best time of year for bike racing. Yeah. It's because it's one day. I let the stage races. I'll take Paris-Nice and Tirreno Adriatico and stuff like that, but the classics. On top of that, local weather gods are smiling on us, although not tonight. We are here in the inland Northwest, are able to actually ride our bikes outside, even those, show some of our pasty flesh to the rays of the sun. Talk to me about how it felt to get outside, you guys, this weekend, and in our cases, last weekend. And on top of that, how the body feels in relation to the payoff of the winter training. In other words, are you on track? How does it feel to get outside for the first time? Jackson, I know this last Friday was your first real outdoor ride.
Yeah, it was. And it was great. I was so happy to finally be back out. I'd been doing, 5 days a week on the trainer, just a lot of time.
Was that you?
Yeah.
I thought it was me.
Yeah. So it was really good. And then I told you on Saturday that it's like, wow, this is crazy how I feel.
Yeah.
I have never felt this great in March. It's like I didn't quite realize the effects of what a training plan can do.
Really?
Yeah. When we were going up, what was it, Thorpe?
Thorpe.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I was well within comfort range. Like I could have probably done like 30% more. And I was thinking, this is like, I must be doping. Like, what's going on right now? That was crazy.
Thanks, Jackson. I'd like to take this moment to officially quit because I punched you guys. I couldn't hold that pace. You guys were hauling.
Yeah.
I didn't have 30% left on that.
You didn't?
No.
Thank you.
I'm not close to where he is.
I think I needed to hear that though, because
I think I was talking to Jackson, but I went from full sentences to 3 word, and it was like every other. So I went.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I was, and Jackson's got his mouth shut.
Yeah.
But it's this feeling is like addicting because I've already started looking up like training plans for once this one ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like what to do when one. I had to look it up. Like, what do you do when one ends? But I figured that out. So
You mourn.
yeah, you take a week and then you do it again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's many cases. You do what they call those macro cycles, where it's a, 4 to 6 to 8 week build, and then you taper back just a little bit, and then you build upon where you left off minus, whatever percentage, 10, 15%, and then try to build upon that.
Yeah.
And then it's boom, 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 boom. It's that step process.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Paul, talk to me about how you feel, where you feel, things like that.
I think I'm where I thought I was. I always want a little bit more. I always want more. But yeah, it's okay. And the thing for me being at my age, I don't know how much I'm losing to age and how much I've slacked off.
Okay, we're about to dive into that, so that's perfect. You're segueing.
Yeah, it's because I don't know what my limits are, because they change every year.
Yeah.
And I saw a thing where they're talking about your VO2 max and how much percentage you lose from the time in your 20s when you peak. So I've lost probably, I was 67 when I got tested at 27. I've lost 13. There's no way if I stayed the same fitness and same training.
Yeah.
I'd be 13 points down.
Yeah.
From 67. So, and there's nothing you can do. That's just age.
Yeah.
Sure.
I will never be able to be.
Yeah.
Well, not like 67 is a great number, but it's better than average.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good number.
Yeah.
That is a pretty good number.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, 70 is where most
Yeah.
people are.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean
most
that
pros
race.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I Garmin does the same thing, and mine's at 62, and mine says that it's at the top 1% of your age range.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like that's pretty crazy. 67's
I bet you it's
insane.
higher. I bet you it's way higher than what your Garmin thing is. If you do, I did
Yeah.
an actual test.
Yeah, I could
So,
imagine.
a VO2 test, which are miserable. They're like doing your power.
Yeah, I watched a YouTube video about it the other day, and it was like about a runner, and it seems awful to
Yeah.
do those things.
It is horrible.
Yeah.
You're
You're
strapped
doing an
up to- with a hose.
TP test basically,
Yeah.
and they got
Crazy.
Usually you just run to
mine was
exhaust.
closed off.
Yeah, I
Did
was
you-
too.
Now they have a full face mask that
That's what I
seals
saw.
up.
And
Yeah.
you just go to exhaustion.
Mine had
Yeah.
like a
You
big
can go.
pincher over your nose, and
Yeah.
you had to breathe through. You had like a scuba diver
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
mouthpiece on top of that. And at first, when you start going, you're like, and I could barely open the valves.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's gonna be
And then pretty soon it's like those things were wide open. I'm going,
Okay. I don't get to do this very often,
okay.
but in 1987, my VO2 was 83.
Oh my
See?
god, that
Yeah.
is like
that's why I think genetically, yeah, I think you would be, if you did a test,
Yeah.
I think you might
be
go.
higher.
I mean, your mom's a chain smoker, and she did that an entire time while you were she was pregnant with you, so that might have fucked it up.
I've got
but,
a just terrible TBI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you born on time?
I don't know.
No.
He wasn't
He
preemie,
was late.
because that's the last thing to develop is
He was
your
late.
lungs.
I think he just stayed in there just to develop his lungs and his head.
Yeah.
I'm overcooked, and you can tell.
My head grew.
How
Yeah.
how do you guys monitor or gauge your fitness? I mean, do you do tests? Do you pay attention to FTP kind of things like that? I just, I would like to know what, as we go into this season, are you looking at Strava KOMs? Are you looking at those types of things? Or are you, I spent a little bit more, I've kind of been diving deeper into Strava. Here I am, one of those member paying people. And I didn't realize the depth you could go into, kind of like with that watch that you were talking to me about the other day, about all these extra features that you don't realize exist. And, for example, on Strava, we'll show you up to 2 years your fitness levels based upon strain, based upon power numbers, based upon heart rate, and it can show you, and those numbers are all almost irrelevant if you're trying to compare them to somebody else, but you can see where you are in comparison to this day from 2 years ago, where you are in the middle of the season, what those numbers are. Mm-hmm. How do you guys test or monitor, or is it just by what you can accomplish out on the bike?
I usually do it comparatively to like when we all ride together.
Yeah.
Just to see like how my fitness stacks up against other people. And that I feel like is, the best indicator how well you can perform against others.
Yeah.
But I've also kind of started to look into those metrics that certain, tools provide. I don't live or die by them, and I don't really get like self-conscious or anything. But, the fact that I'm seeing right now a fitness trend go upwards that would typically happen in April is like, it's a little bit encouraging to see things like that.
Absolutely.
But like I said, it's not like one of those things where I'm like, oh, I really got to kick it in gear now if I'm not at a fitness level of 37.
Yeah.
Mine would be first race. That's,
So you're kind of like what you're saying. Blind up to that first race.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it long enough. I know what it takes. Where I'm at, it doesn't. You don't know. Then the first race tells you like, oh, I'm not recovering. A little more intervals, push that, or I'm lacking hills, or whatever sprint's gone. Got maybe all of them. The thing is just, especially at my age again, is like just hanging in, like a group that's faster. And that's why some of it is based off of riding with these young guys.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you know what? That's another thing that I sometimes have to force myself to come to the realization is that my training partners are at the front end of at least the local regional peloton. I'm not racing to be at the front of that local that local peloton, and that's that. I gotta remember that. It's hard to remember. It's hard to put into your head and go, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I've also come to the realization that I came to the realization of this a while ago is that my nerddom has become almost a negative. Because I spend so much time, as Jackson, to use your term, that hyperfixation, where I will go down the rabbit hole in terms of finding data, finding numbers, finding all these things that toys that I can use along the process to monitor. Okay, heart rate, power. I have a smart scale. I have a Garmin scale that I step on that tells me everything, including my water weight and whether I'm menstruating, but and all those things, and I do pay attention to the scale. I step on the scale probably 4 or 5 times a week. Sometimes I don't because I don't want to get depressed. But then I also realize that my power numbers are up, so power to weight, great. It's an ongoing process, and I've also, after our discussions on this show, taken out on my onboard display, I've taken out heart rate and power. I'm back to old school Avocet computers. I'm looking at speed, time, and distance. That's all I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And it's kind of liberating. The other day when you guys were flying up that climb along the side of the highway, I started to drift back a little bit, and then I got kind of pissed, and I got out of the saddle and climbed up alongside, and then you, Jackson, kind of hit the gas, and I was holding on, and I was like, okay, I should probably back off a little bit. We still got a ways to go. I'm not giving an excuse, but I did kind of just let off the gas a little bit, but I have no idea what my heart rate was. I have no idea what the numbers were, and I have a feeling if I would have probably looked down and saw those numbers earlier, I would have backed off earlier.
Yeah, you pulled the pin.
Yeah. Because, oh my God, I can't hit 170. I'm too old for this, and all that kind of shit. Or, holy crap, we're doing 580 watts. Or, I just got out of the saddle and climbed and I hit 700 watts or something like that. Well, I'm just picking numbers out of my ass.
Yeah.
But those things, and it's just, I'm kind of stuck between the two, where it's like, I love seeing the numbers. I love seeing the fact that right now my fitness is better than it was 2 years ago in July. But I also can't obsess over those numbers.
Right.
So it's finding that.
I think what I do too, I use Strava. Mine's limited. I'm free, so I don't have all that. But I can look at past results of like a certain climb, because we ride pretty much the same. If I did that climb, like 395 parallel is that one.
Yeah.
And look
It's
at the
like
past. I got a PR on that.
5%, right?
Yeah.
5, maybe 6.
No, it's less than that.
Is it
I
4
think
or
it's
5?
like 3.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like 3. But it's a long drag. It's kind of a
Fucking
false
5.
flat. It's a false flat.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I use that afterwards, not during. When you do it on a training ride, that's a distraction. For me, it's like afterwards, like that hurt. I can go back to Strava and,
Yeah.
now I know why. And I can achieve this. So that feeling, for me, that feeling where I thought I'm at max, that's what that feeling is. I kind of put a bookmark on that. And that's what I use like data or matrix afterwards. Not that I use a lot of it, but, still.
But yeah, to know that and that's where the things like Strava are so beneficial in that essence. If you don't obsess over it. Hi guys. If you just look at those numbers, like you're saying, it's like, holy shit, I can still hit this. I can still get a top 10 in a Strava section that is pretty common among area cyclists. That's okay. Let's rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's funny because I have described my growing up process as like I grew up with the creation of computers. You and I were talking about this the other day on the ride. And then my cycling journey kind of parallels that pretty perfectly, is in that I really started to get competitive without a power meter, without a heart rate strap. I had a Wahoo, but that was only for mapping purposes, so I could know where the hell to go in Portland. So now when I'm out on a ride, I've learned from my initial, initiation into the sport to not pay attention to that stuff. So instinctively, I'm never looking at that power meter. But it's interesting because you do see specific racers looking down a lot, checking that vital information. But yeah, I've never let it, consume me. Because when we were going up that climb, I was just going up the climb, trying to keep up as best I could. And when I felt good enough to keep going, I stepped on it a little more. Yeah.
I mean, I keep coming back to Jackson when you and I did the Belgian waffle in California, and we were alongside a guy who said, "I'm going to stay at this power number for as long as the race goes." I went, God, what a horrible way to ride an event. How boring. You're just staring at your computer head the entire time going, I must maintain these watts. What a robotic bullshit way to go through life.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a story at, what's his name? Dowsett.
Alex
Dowsett. Yeah. So when he raced for Movistar, they did this TT, and I think it was in the Vuelta, and this guy on the team came up to him and he said, what were your numbers? And he says, I'm not sure. And he started looking at it and he says, your average power was lower than mine, but you were like so much faster. Why is that? And he goes, well, what was your strategy? And he says, I can maintain 400 and I don't know. I'm making up that number. 410. I kept it at 410 the whole time. And he's like, that's not how you do it. He goes, when there's a time to break, you 410 watts. The problem is you're not rested. And then he goes, I have peaks that are up 1,000 going up over the top of the climb. That's where I made, because you stayed at 420. I'm doing, 1,000 watts.
Yeah.
I just made time on you.
Yeah.
And you can kind of, overanalyze to paralyze, I think, in a way.
Yeah. 1,000 watt peak. Let's say 400 is your median.
Mm-hmm.
Median or the mean? Your average.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
I don't know.
Science. If 400 is that average, and you're hitting 1,000 watts, and then you're only dropping down to 300, 200, that's still making your average number higher than 400.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just breaks down that way.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm starting to. It's feeling kind of liberating. I like looking at the data when I need to, but I don't want to almost look at it in the moment anymore.
Well, it's working because you're riding better than in the last couple of years.
It's,
no doubt. I even mentioned that to you.
Yeah, you did.
I did. You guys talked about me.
Yeah.
What else did you say?
Oh, there's other things, but you don't want to hear it.
Okay, I get it. So I should mention that in case you were wondering why you can't hear breathing, and an additional fact that I'm in a fairly good mood. The Waples aren't here.
Is that why?
Yeah. They're both in Hawaii soaking up the sun, especially on Sam's ankles. If you guys saw the picture we saw, you would think somebody went total misery on him. Like, put the block between his ankles and just smashed it with a hammer. Yeah. That's a movie reference. I don't know if you've seen that movie. A great movie. He didn't hit out of the cock-a-doodle car. Great Stephen King book. Although, another Stephen King. You saw The Monkey this week or something.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And I guess they're all there. They're having a great time, and they're climbing massive amounts. The other day they sent us a picture where they were standing in front of a sign that showed that they rode over. By the way, I do want to note the irony that David is texting us during the show about being late on ordering kits. And he's texting us during the show, not realizing that we're doing the fucking show.
He's on Hawaiian time. He's 2 hours behind.
He's 2 years behind.
Yeah, 2 years behind.
Yeah. So, but they did over 10,000 feet. They were standing in front of a sign that showed 10,000, and I was like, "You guys started at sea level. That's holy shit." And they said, "Yeah, we did it," and they had to go back a little bit because I guess Danielle, David's wife, was having a tough time. She ran out of food and water, but still went up this climb and did this whole insane thing like that. And I do want to bring to attention that David brought to he referred to his wife as a Honda Civic.
He did.
Saying that she needs very little to keep going. Gentlemen, would you ever attempt to compare your wife to a Honda? What kind of car, if not, would you choose? And by the way, you probably don't have to answer that if you don't have an immediate response. Yeah, you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I've said my wife has a diesel engine in terms of like, her running capabilities.
Yeah, steady. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. But I've never thought of her as a vehicle.
You don't want to pick the car. You don't want to pick the car.
I don't know if I do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I pick a Honda Civic.
Honda Civic.
Doesn't really sound like the most illustrious of vehicles.
I say the car that we own right now is perfect for my wife.
Bug?
Little Beetle.
Yeah.
It's sporty, it's fast, corners, temperamental at times. Not high maintenance, but there is some maintenance involved.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna say that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I do have a kind of a similar story to that. I got a new set of wheels back in the early days of my BMC. And when I got them shipped to me, I put them on my bike, and I'm like, that just changed the whole look of my bike.
Yeah.
And I came up, I had a big smile. My wife says, what are you smiling about? I said, well, those new wheels just look so good. It's kind of like, I forget how beautiful you are. And then when we go out to dinner, you dress up, and I'm like, wow. And she goes, and that's supposed to be a compliment? Uh-oh.
Oh,
whoops.
Fuck. You know what?
I was still on the bike. I was still focusing on the bike, not her, obviously, on that statement. So
I remember how beautiful you are.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you're not so bad looking.
I'm going to say it.
I cleaned up your greasy chain. You look pretty good.
While you were saying that story, I was thinking like, oh, that's such a sweet thing to say. But then I realized, oh, shit. She took it the other way. Yeah. But that happens. Yeah. And I was going to honestly say a V-dub bug too, because my wife used to have a V-dub bug, and it was kind of almost like a creamy tan, and it was really, and my wife likes all that kind of cutesy fashion stuff, and so she's, I was going to describe her like that. But then I thought about it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go that way, because she's practical. But I'm not going to describe her as a sport utility vehicle.
You're not going to say, shit, she's like a Subaru Outback.
Yeah, Subaru got back. Or any of that stuff. You don't even approach it.
No.
So this is the time of year that longer rides tend to enter the picture. And since the concept of the spouse was brought up, and we kind of touch base on this every once in a while, and I also hate how there's this perspective that we are like this, oh no, I got a chick with the happy wife, happy life. Fuck that. I hate that happy wife, happy life shit. But about the marriage and things like that, I recently had to apologize to my wife. And I think I told Jackson about this on our ride. We had a trip planned. Well, spring break is I get a week off, and last year we went to Chelan, Washington, and we took the RV and the dogs, and my wife honestly worked from the RV during the day because she didn't have the time off, and I'd go for 3-4 hour rides to come back, get food, stuff like that. We'd have the afternoons and evenings together. And I enjoyed the shit out of that. And then this year I was like, hey, let's do Walla Walla. And she was like, okay. And then this last week she says, hey, I found out from a friend there's this cool little town that I would like to go see. It's near the ocean, yada, 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 and stuff like that. And I kind of clammed up because I wanted to be on the bike. I wanted to train. And I could tell that my wife was looking at me going, you fuck. You're so selfish about your bike that this is all you want to do. And I it took me 24 hours to kind of come to just to put things into perspective. And I looked at my wife when we were at dinner the other night, and I said, honey, I'm sorry. I'm really, really excited right now. This is after I discovered the Strava 2-year graph thing. And I said, I'm really in a good place right now with my cycling life. I'm having a great time. I'm almost to the point where I'm not the last asshole at the top of the climb where everybody's going like, go wait for Pat. And that's been a long time. That kind of thing has been a part of it. And so I get excited, and I don't want to lose those days because I think everybody else is going to catch up with me or something like that. And so I said to her, how about we go to this place? She wants to go on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I said, how about we go and I bring the bike, but I go for a ride at 6 o'clock in the morning for about 2 hours, maybe once or twice during the whole time. And I think she was happy that I apologized and admitted that I'm letting things go on a little over the top. But do you guys, am I the only one who's worried about these types of things? I mean, if you plan a trip, have you ever asked to bring the bike?
Mm-mm.
No, Jackson.
Never.
Paul?
I know right off the bat when it would be a good time.
Yeah.
I haven't found that yet.
You and your wife do something really interesting with your vacations, though. You take your vacations to ride or go see the classics. Uh-huh. She takes her vacations, and then you take vacations together where there's no bike.
Yeah.
Which I think is the most perfect way ever to do it.
And, this year, I was planning on going to the classics, and that would have been great. And I would have taken my bike.
Yeah.
And she's going with her mother since her father passed away. And this is the first time her mother was able to go back to her hometown in Nuremberg, Germany. So, that's a no-brainer. But that was kind of going to be the balance. But this year, my trip is going to be going down to see my friend Stu down at Palm Desert at the end of this month and get 5 days and good riding. So, we kind of balance it out. We don't have a problem with, isn't like, hey, wait, I need a vacation too. We don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just experience. And, when you mention something like, yeah, I'd like to do, and you can see my wife, she's a bad poker player. I could tell right off. She didn't have to say anything. It's, nope.
Yeah.
And that's what her eyes say. Nope.
Yeah.
And so,
if you were to plan a vacation where the bike was involved, because the three of us, because the Waples are over there riding in Hawaii because they're the Waples and they do everything together. It's fucking attached to the hip, but and that's a good thing. I hate them for it, but it's a good thing. And their wives are riding too. Thank you, Paul. We have active wives, but they are not actively into the sport of cycling. How would you plan a trip that you were allowed to bring the bike? Would you even do it? How would you do it? Location, time on the bike. Would training goals come into perspective? Let's say you have a week and you can bring your bike and your wife wants to go with you. Asking for a friend.
I think I'll give my honest opinion, and then I'll go along with the question.
So your honest opinion will be the truth, and then you go along with the question and just bullshit your way through it.
No. Because I want to play along because that's fun.
Yeah.
But I will tell you what I would honestly do.
Good.
I would honestly plan a trip with all of us, where we all ride together.
Team camp.
A team camp.
Okay.
I feel like that would probably be the most like opportune thing to realistically do.
Yeah.
But say we are planning a trip with my wife coming with me, and I am riding as well. I think there are two things that really need to be vital here. One is it needs to be a place where like they can relax outdoors. Does that make sense? So like a pool area, or like
or even a vibrant community where it's like, you guys go ride, I'm gonna go over here.
I was gonna say next would be a nice town.
Yeah,
that they can go explore, because when I'm out, I don't want the other person to feel like they're stuck waiting for me.
Yeah,
or like there's nothing else to do. Like you're just out riding. Like that's the last thing I want anybody to feel.
I'll
like,
just sit here with my book in the rain.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that sounds like a shitty time to spend on a weekend,
Yeah.
So those are my two things that I would really want. And it has to be during warm enough weather too. It can't be during like
winter.
Yeah, like fucking February.
Yeah.
It can't be during that.
Yeah. That Chelan trip was kind of almost a perfect storm. My wife had to work every day. So she's like, I have to fire up the internet and I have to be in this rig for 8 hours.
See, that's like a,
So I'm like, okay, bye. Situation. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen very often. Mm-mm. Paul, would you even bother?
No, I think it depends on where we went. I can't imagine, because we've talked about going down to Walla Walla when the dog dies, and just waiting. Anyway, but yeah.
Who's a good dog?
Go. But I think even if I went down there, that wouldn't be. If we went with a group, or like if we went back to her hometown, her birthplace in Nuremberg, Germany, I could probably squeeze one out, going out through Nuremberg and stuff, because she has family and she knows the city really well.
Yeah.
But if she's on her own, then that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't see how we could make it work. Even if she wants to visit Belgium, because Ghent was like my favorite city I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And because I'd like to see it sometime. And I'm like, God dang, I wouldn't be able to ride then. So because I know she'd want, some guidance. I have some bearings in that city. So
yeah.
Anyway.
And that's okay. It's just been such an interesting process to stop and think about, because the trip was originally established as my school spring break. The first time 2 years ago I did it, I booked a campsite all by myself. I went down to Lewiston, Idaho, and I was down there, and I was going to ride every day and just buy food and just sit in the RV and watch movies and fart, and it didn't work out because I fucking went into AFib. But and then that last year I was like going, okay, I'm going to this other place that I think the weather patterns tends to be just as good or better. I'm going to go. And my wife goes, oh, I'll go with you. Okay. This year, hey, I'm going to do it. Oh, no, shit. Oh, shit. Okay.
Did you hear the door slam?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. And I don't want, I don't want to paint this as a me against her or my wife against cycling or any of that kind of shit. But and that's why I had to kind of come down and stop and talk about it. And I think I brought it up to you on the ride on Saturday, Paul, and you're like, wow, good thing you're not doing Tour de Bloom, because that week would have been a good training block.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, So I guess I'm going to this.
You said it.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to this wonderful little seaside town.
That'll be pretty fun, though.
It will be.
And you could make it like an active taper week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could hike, walk, do all that
Well,
shit. Record it on a watch, and it counts as a workout.
That's true. Yep.
I would just find all the breweries and just drink myself to oblivion. That's what I would do.
I might do both.
Yeah.
But she said, yes, you can take your bike. And I said, okay, I'll leave for a ride at 6:30 in the morning and come home at 8:39 and
that's perfect.
And just do it once or twice.
Make sure the coffee's already made.
Exactly.
So she wakes up.
That's good.
Are you guys camping?
No.
No, you're not.
No, we're gonna do either a Airbnb kind of thing or something like that. And
They cost a lot, but it's kind of worth it.
It is.
Do
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just have your own space.
Yeah, it's nice.
So much better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears. Should we switch gears? We should switch gears. Where's my fucking Pat? Get your shit organized. You're such a dipshit. Nobody likes you.
Okay, don't be so mean. You don't deserve that.
World of Pro Cycling. Tonight's headlines brought to us by friends at Untapped Maple. If you haven't, what the hell are you waiting for? Smooth, quick energy powered by Vermont's finest maple syrup. I had to hurry that one because I knew how much time I had left in the read. And I was like, oh shit, that team's about to over. Pro Cycling's opening, quote-unquote, opening weekend arrived last weekend with Belgium providing the first fireworks of Omloop and Kuurne Brussels. Kuurne results were both predictable and unpredictable in a certain sense. Omloop with, sorry if I screw up his name because it's hard to pronounce. And second of all, who? Soren Warnskold, and second of Paul Magnier, and third, we're going to see a trend here, Jasper Philipsen. Kuurne Brussels Kuurne with Jasper Philipsen, Olav Kooi, and Hugo Hofstetter in the top three. Before I get to the women's event, which is a story within itself, I want to ask you guys thoughts on what came out of this. These two opening races. I always personally think I put too much, and I keep calling it Het Volk because that's how old I am. I keep putting too much on that opening race, thinking it's going to be some huge showing of the cards. But if I did, and if you did, what did those cards show?
I think what we saw, and I'm going to probably make a prediction for a good portion of the Belgian Classic season, is that I think Jasper Philipsen's going to have a pretty good Classic season. I kind of feel like it. He's the one sprinter that I do see making it over some of those harder climbs. Yeah. And that Visma didn't come out swinging. They did not come out with that team that we all thought they would.
It's the stupid helmets.
Those...
Oh,
for God's sake.
Yeah, they were bad. They were really bad.
Yeah. Did you hear the quote that Jorgensen said?
Who didn't wear one?
No, he did not. Somebody asked him, why the silly helmets, and they said, well, the only reason they put them on is to get into the heads of other people. That didn't seem to work.
No. Yeah, the only heads we saw were those fucking ones with the big ugly helmets on.
Yeah.
They were bad.
But Visma just had a miserable, mechanical, how many times did you see Campenarts on the side of the road? He had problems. Yeah. And my man, I love Wout. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good ambassador for cycling. But I worry about his year last year. I think he's he's got 2 kids now. Mm-hmm. I don't blame him for any of this. He's 30. He's turning 30.
Is he 30?
Yeah. Anyway, or close to it. It's like taking chances because I watched in that sprint in Omloop, and I'm thinking he's shut down. Mm-hmm. It was starting to get argy-bargy, and
he did try to make a substantial try in Kuurne, but I think I can't remember who he was with in that break. Wasn't hearing any of it, and they were just kind of shutting it down.
Part of me worries with Wout that he's so watched right now, but he doesn't have that monstrous power that Van der Poel carries, or he doesn't have that unbelievable long range attack like Pogačar has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that he can't really break it.
Yeah,
and I think that's turning out to be his, killer. Is that everybody's just marking Wout?
Yeah,
and then it kind of shuts down the whole team.
And it was an interesting day if you watched the Samin if I'm pronouncing it right, Slammin' Salmon, today with Mathieu van der Poel. I scrolled my social media today and I saw that he had won the race. And then when I saw him attack with like 50K to go, I was like, okay, that's it. I was like, oh shit, this isn't it. He won it in a pretty powerful sprint effort.
Yeah.
So he's still got the gas. And so it's just an interesting process. I don't want to ride out Wout though. I think he's going to find it. I think he's timing things pretty well. We got a ways to go to the big ones.
And I will say he has a big habit as of the last 3 years of like showing up to be like the hero of a Grand Tour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the guy who won like 6 stages, but like in the weirdest ways.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm interested to see if that is kind of what happens again.
I think his classic season is still going to show something.
I hope it does.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I think, he's undercooked right now, which is good, because I think Flanders, he pointed out that Flanders and Roubaix are his objective. He's not doing Milan-San Remo because of that focus and stuff. So, and hopefully it works out, because last year that same focus was those two, and then he crashed out before that. So I'd like to see him win at least one, if not both.
Mm-hmm.
I thought last year for sure, before he crashed, he was going to win both. He was just on top of his game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you don't have Jasper Philipsen in your top 3 for Milan-San Remo, I think you're vastly
I'm trying to
making
think
a
if this is the
mistake.
last back-to-back. It might have been Merckx. God, who was the last one to do
A
Milan-San
double-up?
Remo? Yeah, because he won.
Yeah.
Jasper Philipsen won last year.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's like the hybrid sprinter. I feel like Philipsen is not going to be that like winning the green jersey every year type of rider, but he could do really well in like a classic season.
Yeah.
The one to watch, though, out of this weekend is Emmanuel.
Yeah?
So, and Salmon, he got second.
He did get second. You're right. And in
he got
Omloop,
second
he
in
was
Omloop.
slamming the handlebars, over that one.
Yeah.
He just mistimed it.
Yeah, and I think he got boxed in and stuff. He's not even 20, or he's just turned 20.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't even think he started shaving yet. I saw him today in the interview, and I'm like,
Yeah.
he looks like he's shitting green still. God.
I also think a interesting team to watch out for could be the what's the red and yellow one? The one that
Uno X.
Uno X.
Yeah.
I think they could have a surprising season, especially with Johannesson.
Yeah.
Was that who it was?
Soren, the one that won?
No, there was one guy who kept going off the front. I forget what his name was. Anyways, he wore the polka dot jersey a lot last year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's
The big heavy guy. All of them are heavy.
Yeah, they're all big guys.
What's his name? Bossad, whatever. Soren.
Anders or Tobias? There are 2 Johannessons lined up at Strada Bianca. Shit.
We'll say yes.
Yes.
It was the Danish one.
They both have the same middle name. I mean, come on, Mom and Dad.
But anyways, I think that team could have a pretty
Yeah.
surprising year with
Magnus
Kort.
Magnus Kort's riding really well right
Yeah.
now, too. So, yeah, exactly. The women's edition of the Omloop, we can almost rename Oops, in the form of a massive break. What was the gap? Did anybody...
He got up to, I think, 15 minutes at one point.
15 minutes.
At one point, yeah.
And it looked like, correct me if I'm wrong, back in the field, there was a lot of power struggle in terms of who was going to close that gap. And it seems to me like, especially with Demi Vollering's shift to FDJ, that there is going to be a tactical shift within the women's peloton, because there is not... I don't know if SD is going to have that dominating, constant, always... breaks away. SD Works goes up there, shuts it down, and takes the win. I think it's going to be a good thing for women's races, and I think this was a wake up call to strategically in terms of how to do that. Although you did see when Allison Jackson won the Paris-Roubaix, it was almost a similar mix up that they just mistimed things. So it should be an interesting transition.
I also think it's exactly what like their peloton really needed.
Yeah.
It was just a switch up, I think that SD Works probably Anna van der Breggen is probably going to bring us exactly what Demi Vollering did, but like Demi Vollering, I don't know how old she is in comparison, but that's like 10, 15 years in difference. So like there will be some sort of performance difference between the two of them, and they won't bring the same result. Yeah. I think that Demi Vollering is a full-fledged team leader, but when Lotte Kopecky's around, Anna van der Breggen is a absolute legend of legends, you know, but I think that they're just at such a different career point.
Arc.
That I don't think that they are going to get exactly what they expected out of, like, say, a Demi Vollering in that position.
And I don't think, I don't know the age of Anna van der Breggen now.
I don't either.
I'll assume she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
And let's, we were just talking about it on an extreme basis. The recovery isn't going to be there as quick as somebody 10, 15 years younger than you. The fact that you're coming back, she's 34?
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that you're coming back after years off, I saw a quote from her. She's just saying, I'm not there yet, and that's understandable.
She did a race. She was in the top 3, I think.
Was she?
Demi Vollering's 28.
28. Okay.
I think the interesting
not
part,
that big of a difference. 7 years.
Yeah.
But 7 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of time.
I think the interesting part of Omloop for the women was that forever, SD Works always did the work, maintaining. They're the ones that monitored the breakaways. And the rumor I heard was that everybody was waiting. They're saying, chase it down. And I don't know if Vollering was part of the conversation, but the SD Work riders said, we were told not to work. Mm-hmm. And so all it takes is all those other teams just to have, like a Paul Main go up in front and just, you don't get it beyond like 3, 4, 5 minutes. And it doesn't take much to keep it there.
Just tempo.
Yeah. It's just a tempo ride, and then have a couple of sacrificing lambs, that will do that to keep it maintained. But no one was willing to work, and SD Works is like, we don't have Kopecky here, so it's not up to us to chase it down. Yeah. Vollering's team, and that was their thinking, is that, you're the one that's got the potential. They had Wiebes, SD Works had Wiebes, but they didn't know after the Muir she's going to climb after, how's she going to feel after that?
Yeah.
Don't blame them on that. That's pretty crafty, but it's an early season race, and you're setting, a powerhouse like SD Works, for me, like strategy-wise, is like, we're not going to play that game anymore. Yeah. This is a different. Now we don't have Vollering.
It's a shift.
But I am a little bit concerned that there might be a little bit of like, screw you, Vollering. We're going to make sure you don't win.
Yeah.
And I recall
I
a
hope
race.
It's not that.
No. And I recall a race that was Frans Maassen and Marc Sajan. And they were racing, and it might have been even something big as like Flanders. And they're in a breakaway, and they're two directors, Peter Post and Jan Ross.
Oh,
they
man.
hated each other.
Yeah.
And they just said, don't work. And they got caught and blown out the back. And they were shamed by the director, and I think UCI say, this is bull crap. You can't hold your, grudge match and make racing sloppy. So I'm hoping it's not one of those things. I think if it is the earlier thing that I said, that is just, we're going to set a new thing. Everybody has to work now.
Yeah. And it should be to an extent. I mean, I didn't necessarily pay attention close enough to what teams were represented in that break, but you would think that there would be some other teams who would, like you say, the sacrificial lambs, who would come up and who would at least provide something to maintain that gap. If it gets over 10 minutes, my God, stoke the fires. So
the winner is, she's 30-some years old, not much of a history. Yeah. Belgian rider, Klaas, I think is her name. And then the other woman that got second, that was a Continental Pro.
A lot of Klaas. Yeah.
And then the one that got second is on a Continental team.
Yeah. How
do you let something at that level? I mean, and it kind of...
Vollering was third.
And think about the Olympics when the Austrian...
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, it's just like...
Can't let that happen.
Yeah, you can't let that happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I also want to mention that the U.S. gravel scene is up and running. Paul could go to the bathroom.
I think I will.
Step aside, Tadej and Urska. We have a new gravel power couple. I don't know if it's new, but Keegan Swinsa and Sofia Gomez Villafana. Hope I pronounce. I think it was pretty close on pronouncing her last name. Taking Belgian Waffle Arizona in a very I guess Keegan did well, but Sophia absolutely blew the doors off of it, and it's just showing that I like these races. I'm sorry, Paul. I like these races. These races. I think this is why I'm so excited about this weekend with Strada Bianca. I like this style of races. I love seeing the gravel paying a part of it, but I don't need to see necessarily a mountain bike race. I love mountain bike racing. It's a completely different thing anymore. And what this is reminding me of is a cross between those epic classics, because they're so long in distance, and these gravel roads that aren't necessarily. I mean, some of the gravel races I've done, you hop onto some things you're like going, this is a mountain bike trail, but some of these things tend to be more gravel roads and almost a tribute to what we're going to see at Strada Bianca this weekend. So it's fun to see. So and speaking of that, let's look up to this upcoming weekend. I love it. I can't wait. It might be my favorite. And I know that's a sacrilege to the classics fanatics, the purists. Hi, Paul. The people who see the sport as history. I am going to cast my vote for making Strada Bianca a pure classic, and I don't care if the distance is off or if the tradition isn't long enough or something like that. I think it's a beautiful bike race, and I can't wait to see. My first question for you guys is, well, actually, other than you can provide your opinion on the race itself, but was who's going to challenge Tade? Shit, I'm tired of asking that question to my podcast.
I had no one.
You have no one.
This is one of those lineups that I really look at, and I think like the UAE tour, I was like, all right, well, who's going to get second?
Yeah. Who's going to be the person who can be up there? We do have a renewed Thomas Pidcock.
No, if we do.
No.
After this last weekend,
Yeah.
I don't think he really is.
Really?
Yeah, and his win was against, I'm not going to say a bunch of nobodies, but they weren't like real.
Yeah.
Not this class that he's going to see. But he has won in the past, and I think he certainly has a potential without a doubt. But
do you think he was left out to dry and portrayed as the villain? Pidcock. No.
I think
you think he's really a villain.
Well, I think he's a person that wants to do he went against tradition of Ineos. Ineos has a different ethos than what his was. I get to do whatever I want when I want. That's what he wanted. So that makes him a villain in that setting. But it's okay to be that way in mountain bike racing or gravel or maybe on this team too. They're just like, whatever you want, you got it. So
and then you think logistically too, like, did he ever really deliver?
Yeah,
he never really did.
He did get a Strada Bianca.
He got
and then he got Alpe d'Huez, which was a big thing.
Yeah, he got an Ardennes Classic too, right?
Amstel, I think.
Yeah,
was that because he thought he won against Wout, and people argue about that. It was a dead tie or whatever, but but I think we won. I don't know if it was Amstel Gold. Might have been. Yeah.
So we're looking at these rosters in front of us. How do you, as a race director, and I think I've asked this question multiple times before, how do you approach an event like this, knowing a once in a generation style of athlete is lining up against your riders? How do you approach this? Is this going to take a village where everybody says, heaven forbid, where everybody says anybody but you? Or is this going to take a team effort? Or is this just last year he fucking called his shot. He said, I'm attacking on this climb. And he did. And it was over. All right, how do you approach that? Jackson's shaking his head.
Well, it's just so tough because you think, oh, he's just one guy. And then you look at his team too.
Yeah.
Like Tim Wellens, just seasoned classics rider. Florian Vermeersch got second last year.
Yeah.
Or he was constantly animating until he, I think, might have.
Novak Grossschartner.
Yeah.
Isaac Del Toro. Jesus.
All of the this is a team that's going to bring him to the finale. Yeah. So I really just think you kind of hope and pray and bring your better riders to the races that are a little flatter. I mean, I think Van der Poel could do a thing here, but I just don't think that he could stick up on some of these climbs. I think that Tade's got that long range, unbelievable shot that nobody else really has got.
And he's not there.
Yeah, and this to me was, and that's what I'm saying. They did they bring the better rider to a flatter race.
Yeah. I see. Sorry.
But this was I feel like last year this race was, the stamp it and post on, wow, this guy can do 80K, and nobody can catch him, and then he did it all year.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing is, if I was a director and had a team, okay, what was our strategy last year? We're not going to do that. We got to come up with another one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk between teams, before, like a day or two when they just start doing scouting. Sometimes they're like, hey, listen, a little bit of horse trading, a little bit. It's like, we got to do something or else we're all going to be sitting there looking like fools.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know. A mechanical.
Yeah.
Hopefully not I don't want to see a crash.
No.
But you want to see a little bit of competition. And I mean, when somebody like Tade, he doesn't even have mechanicals. Everything goes right. There's nothing goes wrong for that guy. And I hope it doesn't pile on him like Visma last year.
Yeah.
Stellar and then just shit the next year.
It'd be pretty cool to see the World's jersey cross that finish line first, though.
Yeah, I kept thinking when Van der Poel won it, he was not. He was in his Dutch.
He was in his Dutch
national champions jersey.
I don't think anybody has.
Alaphilippe?
Nope.
No.
Did Lotte Kopecky win last year? She didn't.
No.
Nope.
Valorin nipped her.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Curse of the Rainbow, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe No. Sagan. Maybe Sagan.
Did he ever win? Did he win?
I think he did. Yeah.
Oh, God.
We
need a statistician.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if I'm looking at the roster, I assume we're all picking number one to repeat.
Yes.
With Tade. So, let's just pick two other names.
Okay.
Right? In terms of who's going to take that. I don't know why I did, but I'm looking at I always start at these lists from Pro Cycling Stats. Awesome freaking website if you haven't gone to it. You probably have. And I like seeing how, because in classic cycling form, the number one of each team is listed first. And so I tend to scroll and through looking at the number ones, which are the dedicated race leaders. Oh, shit. So I'm leaning towards hoping that Thomas Pidcock has learned the error of his ways and he has truly found the fountain of youth at Q36.5. So I've got Tom Pidcock and I've got Magnus Cort, because Magnus is on a high ground. I'm not saying he's going to dominate and win, but I think he could podium in there somewhere because he's had some pretty good races lately.
I picked forever animator Ben Healy.
Yeah, something long term could go.
About
yeah,
and Mark Hirschi.
Yeah, it's a good choice too.
I'm interested to see
That's another one I actually scratched off. I chose somebody else.
Yeah.
I went with Max Van Heels, and then I'm my long shot because he did very well. He got 10th place at Worlds last year. He's coming around, and he's done well at Strada. As an American, I have to step in for Sam here. Yeah, Quinn Simmons.
Oh, Quinn's had some bad luck with that race, but
I think that could be something he could do well in.
Yeah.
So
for the women, we spent a little bit of length time talking about the adjustments within the peloton and what's going to happen with that. I'm assuming we're all picking Demi Vollering, so we can also basically pick two other riders. I'm going with the other half of the power couple with Urska. I think she's going to have a good day. I think the climbing kind of suits her style. I don't know if she's got that classics kind of style. She seems like she's a little bit more of a stage racer, but we'll see from there. And Visma Leasebike, I think, is going to come up with something with Pauline from Prevost.
Oh, I forget that she's doing that this year.
I think she's gonna have a good day.
Interesting. I besides Demi Vollering, I picked former gravel world champion Cassie Niwiadoma and Anna van der Breggen.
Yep. You think she's gonna snap into it?
I mean, what, she was second a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, second or third or something.
Yeah,
like that.
so it's not gone. She's an unbelievable talent.
I didn't pick Cassie because I simply wanted her to win.
Yeah, I think that I'm starting to feel like she will forever be the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way a little bit. What would you say? A Primoz Roglic and a Tadej Pogacar generation.
Tour de France 2024.
But what happens if Demi Vollering doesn't crash?
And her team doesn't, and her team chases back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay. Paul?
Also, Vollering. I on Cassie, I almost picked, but I went with Anna van der Breggen like you. But my dark horse went American again, Christina Faulkner.
Okay.
She got 6th, I think, last weekend.
Yeah.
At Onlo. So
there we go. All right. Place your bets, everybody. We'll see what happens. Should be an interesting one. Let's switch to our segments tonight. Thanks to our friends at Competitive Cyclists. Hey, use the LBS. But when you can't find it, be sure to hit up Competitive Cyclists for those rarities that are on the must-have list. For example, I just ordered 2 sets of rim brake pads.
Oh, right on.
From over at Competitive Cyclists. Check out the link at packfiller.com. I did. I was just like, this weekend I was looking down at my bike and I was going, those guys are getting a little slim. And it's because they're the true carbon pads and they just wear down quickly. And so I was like, well, before they become a thing of the past and nobody has them anymore. So I ordered 2 sets. And I also ordered one of those, and I'm anxious to hear what you get. Nope, I'll bring that up in the final. Okay, never mind. Forget it. Who are we going with? We're going with a little changing times with Paul Main. The theme for this evening is apparently safety first. And when I saw you gave me that theme, I made sure that I didn't talk about anything that could have stolen it.
Yeah, and I think you know what I'm going to talk about.
I think I do. Yeah.
Because I'm very vocal when incidents happen. And anyway, so what made me think about with the whole beginning of this year, talking about how to make races safer. There's a lot of traffic islands and roundabouts and stuff that's just not going to go away. They can't stop that. They talked about gear restrictions and there's so many things that are going on that they're playing with, and some of the obvious glares to me that kind of makes me angry that they just ignore. Just
hypocrisy. It is.
It's like, come on, there's an issue here that they're really ignoring. And back in my day, we ran two-wheelers, and if your tire rolled off, no matter what the incident was, you got a suspension. And the pros, they got fined and a suspension, no matter what. In a crash or whatever. So I sent you guys a picture that happened.
And I remember watching it too.
Yeah. And as soon as it happened,
at first I thought it was a spoiler, so I ignored it until the end of
Me too.
Kurna. Yeah.
So, it was, 3.5K into it. And a teammate who's trying to lead
3.5K left.
3.5K
in
left.
Kurna.
Yeah. Of course, when you first look at it, you think the traffic sign took him down. Yeah. I didn't. I'm like, no, the bike hit the traffic sign. You know? But, and then when they replayed it, I was sitting there watching it live, and they replayed it about a kilometer later and I'm like, the tire came completely off.
Yeah.
And he didn't hit anything. He overlapped his teammate's wheel, and his tire came popping off. The problem to me, it's like, I'm not saying they should not run, UCI, no tubeless, because we've had problems. Earlier this year, a rider with K-Dix wheels hit a pothole, and he went down hard. His tire came off, and he went down hard. But they said because he hit the pothole, which caused the flat,
Mm-hmm.
the tire ripped off. You had a rim break from Jackson, for those who are not watching the video. You had a rim crack from a pothole. Did the tire come off?
No, I rode it, probably 50 more feet.
Mm-hmm. So
with a tube.
Yeah, with a tube in and everything.
Not a tubeless.
Uh-huh.
So to me, it's like there's so many incidents, you see it all the time, and it seems to be glared over and shoved underneath the carpet, swept underneath the carpet. And it's like, if that was a tubular, what would happen on the pro ranks? There probably would be some kind of fine, at least, maybe some suspension or whatever.
Yeah.
But it never happens to clinchers.
That mechanic would become a Walmart greeter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they don't approach this thing. This is, to me, it is an incident that I think we have a problem with manufacturers pushing a product that maybe in this application doesn't work. Gravel, perfect.
They are brilliant on gravel. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mountain bikes,
great. Yeah.
This is probably not the best. So
mountain bike downhill? No.
Yeah. How many times do you see guys running down?
Yeah.
Well, you got to use all the inserts for downhills. Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's frustrating to me, and that, obviously manufacturers, and a lot of manufacturers have a lot invested on these tubeless wheels. And I understand. And I think there's, I'm heading down to Palm Desert, and there's a lot of thorns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They make total good sense for that actual rider. But if you are in a race, because luckily he didn't take anybody else down, but when your tire comes off at 30 miles an hour and you have nothing but a bare carbon rim, there's nothing, you're not saving that.
No.
And luckily no one got hurt, but there could have been some major people going down. This is a serious thing. And it frustrates me that they're just like, we got to
increase safety. We got to increase safety, but not where the money's coming from.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And so that is just, I'm not saying they can't run it. I think if they want to run it, but if an incident like that happens, and earlier this year, I took a picture of somebody in a sprint that caught like a barrier, and it popped the tire off, and down he went. There's no way to save it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the only thing that's going to happen at that speed is just like our friend Roger.
Yeah.
You cannot. And he didn't even make contact drink.
Well, I remember you called your shot, when that happened, you went up to the bike and you went, I know exactly what it is already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And from that moment on, I was like, there's no chance in hell I'm ever going to ride this on the road going that fast.
Yeah.
So
Now, like you said, the application is completely different. If you're bike packing or something like that, and you're not taking any high speed, full laying it down kind of curves, fucking great.
Yeah, wider tires, wider rims, all that. It works fine.
Yeah,
it really does.
And you researched. You said you looked up the sponsor, and they were hooked rims.
As far as I could look, that was a hooked rim.
Yeah.
What team was it again?
That was Bahrain. Victorious.
Was it?
Okay.
Yeah, and so they're in Vision.
For a second
Vision wheels, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hook.
Yeah, and when I looked it up, I think the wheel size and stuff, it was a hooked.
Yeah.
And then I did research hookless, and I couldn't find anything. So, but I have a set of tubeless ready rims that I use tubes in, but I used to run tubeless. And in this incident, for the first time ever in my life riding, I got a flat, and I was on the Fish Lake Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to call my wife because I'm thinking, oh, man, it blew out. I couldn't figure out where the leak was. I aired it up with one of my CO2s, and it held for just a second, and all of a sudden it burped.
Yeah.
And then out it went, and I'm like, I didn't even have enough. I carried a spare tube, but I only carried one CO2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never been in that incident before,
Yeah.
And then I had this taken apart thinking maybe I could borrow somebody going by a pump, and I got this white shit that's all over my hands.
So gross. Yeah.
And I thought, well, even before I got to that point, I had to stop because before I try and put the tube in it, is because I thought I could ride it like a clincher, and it was on the back, and I thought I could lean forward on my front wheel and just ride it. The tire was coming off.
Oh, shit.
And so I had to walk to the end of the trail and called my wife for the first time in my life. I had to have somebody come pick me up. I thought, nah, I'm done. And not everybody has this incident.
Yeah.
I realize that, but that was enough to turn me off. I was like, no. But
I
certainly don't want it in a race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
the
would
irony, and like I'm saying, most of us on this amateur level are going to be fine racing with them. But when you got these guys who are putting down 1,500 watts going into a corner or even in a sprint, that's a different gripping purpose, and that's things are going to...
Or even overlapping a wheel.
Yeah.
That didn't even make sense.
And the sign he hit, by the way, was a temporary sign.
He didn't hit it.
It was
His bike did.
But what I'm saying is they were saying it on that, and I saw the sign. It was just placed over a grate.
And it blew it over.
Yeah.
Like destroyed that
now,
shit.
If his tire would have gone out and that sign would have been a permanently affixed sign, it'd have been done. That would have been the end of his season, if not.
And there's a chance that he probably would, if his tire was able to stay on.
Sure.
First of all, it wouldn't have gone flat. But when you overlap a wheel, there's a chance that you could save it. If you didn't, you still could have made, a big, take out some people. You know how when you overlap a wheel.
Yeah.
But still, nevertheless, you have no chance of saving it when the wheel comes off. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And if you want safety, that's, I think, the first thing they need to look at and not worry about sock height.
I'm going to change my final question because I wanted to ask you guys about those electric pumps that you can carry in your pockets. That'll air up at least 2 tires on one charge. That's the other thing I ordered. I want to. Roger, bless his heart. Jackson's out.
I'll have a drink for you.
Had been telling me about it. And I'm like, this sounds like a pretty good deal, especially because I don't need to continually stock CO2. So I'm anxious to try it, and I'll let you guys know how it works.
That sounds like some shit I would eat up.
Yeah, right. Nerd table for 2.
But then I gotta remember to charge it.
Yeah, well, shit. Yeah, I need another chargeable battery.
Yeah.
Like I need a hole in my face.
I'm the guy who's still carrying a pump when he's carrying CO2 in
I
his
am too.
saddlebag,
I am too, and that's why I'm actually excited about it. I mean, you look at that little glass jar over there. There are 3 pumps in it.
Yeah.
Because I always grab one because I'm like, oh, the CO2 could fail, and everything's gonna go gloom and doom. Let's get to style points with no, not style points. Sorry, that's your old cool down with Jackson Bolger. What you got for us, man?
So I was originally going to talk about how much you pay attention to the to your stats, your
oh,
data.
Shit, I stole it from you.
That's not
I
on
always
purpose.
steal
That's
somebody's segments.
That means it was just such a good topic. That means it was just such a good topic we had to talk about.
It's one of those incidents great minds
They do.
alike.
Yeah, they do.
Why.
Great minds poop together.
Well,
Well,
sorry.
so this creative mind over here really thought on its feet and came up
did.
with something different.
Pivot.
So I did. So last week we talked about the things to get into cycling, right? The things that you cannot live without. But over the last weekend, we all wore long sleeve jerseys at one point. I wore leg warmers on Friday and Sunday, and so I would equate that as cold weather riding.
Oh God, this is hilarious.
So
this was going to be my original Final K, but this
did
is
you
good.
switch it
I did.
to a different thing?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We're good. We're good.
Oh,
great
shit.
minds.
Great minds.
They do.
Great minds do crack.
What are your well, I'm not going to go on record to say that. But what would you say your top 3, cycling, cold weather cycling essentials are? My top 3 are our thermal jersey from Panache. I have absolutely adored that thing. I can ride it, and I told you, like, high 60s I can ride that thing.
Yep.
Let's see. A shoe cover. I have been loving the Velotoes toe covers, though.
They just go up to the base of your laces, kind of a thing. Like
exactly.
I mean, the top of your laces.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because, like, I find that if I'm going to need to cover my ankle and my whole foot, it's probably below 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to ride in that probably for the rest of the year, if you think about it.
If ever again.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that's my number 2. And then I did buy a new pair of long-fingered gloves just for outdoor riding. They're completely padless because I want to get used to maybe one day if like my hands or the gloves don't go well, then my hands are just used to not wearing the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
but I've really enjoyed that. So I would say a good pair of like mid-weight long finger gloves, my thermal jersey, and then my toe covers.
Okay.
So those are mine. Paul, what would you say your three are?
Musts.
Booties. Now for me, this is below 50.
Yes.
Would be. So this is what I target. So if it's not going to rain, I use knee warmers instead of leg warmers.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some Castelli. They're kind of rain booties, and I use merino wool socks from Panache.
There
I
you
have
go.
several of them.
By the way,
but
by saying booties, you are dating yourself.
I know.
Too. So yeah.
Shoe covers.
Yeah, no, I love that you're saying
Yeah,
booties because that's what we used to say.
Yeah.
Ankle hot, like
They are ankle,
calf,
but they're
yeah.
designed too because unless around here it could be
Booty
like
call
sunny.
for a cyclist is when you forgot him at a friend's house.
yes. There you go.
Hey, do you see some Castellis
Yeah,
there, man?
Hey,
I left
man.
ya.
Sorry to call.
Yeah.
Can I need my booties?
Yeah. So I use those because sometimes all of a sudden it could rain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have wool socks, which kind of helps in all those
sure.
situations. Because of my hands, that was brought up earlier in the show with
Yep.
my Renaults. I have actually a Panache used to make, not anymore. So now I have the Feets. They're a merino wool glove.
Those are the ones I want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good. They're very good, and they even when it starts getting hot, how the properties of wool. It's
Yeah.
like perfect.
Uh-huh.
And then Panache also. Boy, we're really pushing them today.
We
but
are.
It just happens.
Well.
I don't know if they still make the glove, but I bought it several years ago that I use, and it's kind of a cover over the top of those, so
Right.
it's like a layer, and I can peel those off if it starts warming up.
Mm-hmm.
So gloves, booties, and then it is important that I like a good top, like what you're talking about. I have an Asos one that was given to me on my 50th birthday by my ex-teammates, and I was wearing that when you passed me on your RV.
Oh yeah, got you
And,
all wet.
Yeah, and it's got like a wraparound collar around the neck and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Breathable in the back, kind of wind front,
Yeah.
and
That's
good
nice.
quality long sleeves, good.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
It's hilarious. My knee warmers, I do want to mention right out of the gates, is an old friend of mine, Rich Hincapi. We got these knee warmers. I have like three pair of them. We got them so long ago, and they are still working for me. Hincapi knee warmers they're bomb proof. I don't know what they made them out of, but they have never failed on me. But that isn't necessarily it, because the things I would mention were, number one, are the ASOS full leg warmers that you pull on under your shorts, and they go even cover up onto the hip. Now your junk freezes to death, but there are times when I've gone out in really cold weather,
Me too.
and because my junk is pretty much useless anymore, they work great. You can ride in really cold weather in those. Those are great. The second would be my Showers Pass gloves, which the show has no affiliation with. They aren't as waterproof as they were when I bought them, but I would buy them again just for the waterproof nature of them. And the third one, I'm not going to lie, is a really good fan for indoor training.
There you go.
Because if the weather's shit, I want ventilation in my workout room, and I'm not going to ride outside anymore. I'm just not going to do it. And all you purists can go, oh, you pussy. Oh, fuck you.
Oh, fuck
There you
you
go.
too.
Yeah, fuck you too.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't mean you.
Oh, well,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Right, what I said, pussy.
We've got to that point where it's, you have so many options that you don't have to go out and suffer in the weather.
I'm 100% the same way. If there's snow on the goddamn ground, I'm not going out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I had to pivot on this final K. So I don't know if you guys are prepared for this.
Let's do this.
Because I went and got my haircut today. And the person who cuts my haircut is an old high school friend of mine. And she has the ability to just gab about pretty much anything at once. And there is no, how do I say it? She'll just say just about anything. And she was mentioning when we're talking about the ills of the world and stuff like that she knows a person who was dating a guy who said he won't wash his ass anymore because it's gay.
What?
There are so many men like that.
What?
This is the first
Gentlemen,
time I've heard
the
this.
final K of the show is tonight is, do you wash, like, in there your ass? And if not, why not?
What do you mean by in there? The
Like,
crack?
do you let the shampoo or the soap just kind of barely get in there, or do you use a washcloth or something like that to get the job done?
I'm not wiping my bum in the shower. I'm washing as a normal human being.
But are you pulling it apart and getting in there and getting a little soap in there?
I am not going to get into specifics, but if you think,
I knew this would be a striker.
if you think that there is a sexuality associated with washing your stinky asshole,
Yeah.
you got a lot of
It's
bad
people-
shit going on.
It's
buddy.
people in a sport who have to deal with
Saddle sores?
saddle sores and rashes
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You clean that shit out.
You do.
Literally.
I had a nurse tell me that, nurse practitioner. So, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's deep clean.
Yeah.
No penetration. I'm just saying deep clean.
get it
All the way
done.
down.
Yeah.
Like,
Get
down
it
the
done.
track.
Full stop.
Yeah.
You got soap. You can wash your hands afterwards.
wrong with that?
Yeah.
I'm not Sting. I believe in soap.
Be sure to like and subscribe and to follow the show on YouTube. We love it when you follow us on YouTube, and I hope you've been watching along because there are some things that just can't be said on a mic.
Yeah.
And pop us a review every now and then. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Waples, kiss my ass, riding in Hawaii. David, put your order in, and we're getting close. God, I hope Strata's going to be more exciting than we hope.